Love. From Shakespeare's widely adored Romeo and Juliet to the lowest lows of the Twilight franchise.
You better hold on tight, Spider Monkey.
The concept of love has been around since the beginning of mankind. But the idea of love has changed. Now we immediately think of Tinder or Hinge or whatever dating app someone might use to find their love. And people get picky even to the point of ruling someone out for something extremely trivial. Where did the love go, and how can we get it back? How did we even get here? Well, first we gotta go back a little bit. It's hard to say when arranged marriages began or what was practiced before arranged marriage. It's estimated that arranged marriage practices have an evolutionary history going back at least 50,000 years. The research suggests that early hunter-gatherers practiced some form of bride price or bride service, according to a study done in 2011 by the University of Missouri. A bride price is a sum of money or goods given to the bride's family by the groom. In 80% of the cases studied, families exchange goods or labor for marriage, not just a small bride price. It was shown that a majority of the hunter-gatherer societies practiced this. And this long history of these practices indicates that organized marriage has existed for a long, long time. Fast forward to the 1500s, and this sort of arrangement is still a common practice. However, now, instead of a bride price, there is a dowry. A bride price was more common in societies where manual labor was valued rather than capital. The purpose of this was to compensate the bride's family for the loss of her labor. In the medieval ages, this shifted. Now a dowry is more common. A dowry is a sum of money or property given to the groom by the bride's family. In societies like these, capital is given greater importance over manual labor. This distinction is important because it distinguishes between the way women were viewed, either a burden or an asset. In the Middle Ages, women would have been more of a liability than an asset, considering men were more of the earners and providers. In the medieval ages, marriage was considered mainly for economic or reproductive reasons. Love wasn't nearly as important. In fact, some of the prominent Catholic Church leaders during the time almost discouraged passion or intensity of love in a marriage. The procreation of children was placed as the greatest importance above all. Past the 1500s, we come to the dawn of romance. Now we enter the Romantic era. This begins towards the beginning of the 18th century. But before we get into all that, let's hear a quick word from the sponsor of today's video, Aura. This year has seen some pretty major data breaches. Dell recently experienced a data breach exposing 3.9 million records. United Health recently experienced a data breach exposing the information of 100 million Americans. And National Public Data just got hit with a breach that exposed the information of 3.9 billion customers, which also included social security numbers. And members of this hacker group have released all this personal information online, making it pretty clear now is the time to protect your personal information. Personally, I use Aura to help me with that because it makes me feel much better and safer knowing that my data is being constantly monitored. Aura monitors your personal data across billions of data points, scanning the dark web and public records for signs of identity theft. They also offer up to $5 million in identity theft protection, so if the worst happens, you're covered. Aura also offers data breach alerts, a VPN, password manager, and so much more. So don't wait for a breach to affect you. I've chosen not to leave myself vulnerable, and if you don't want to either, then go to aura.com/emswildworld to get 2 weeks for free. And that'll be more than enough time for Aura to find out if any of your personal data has been exposed. And now back to the video. Romanticism as a movement was pretty big during the time in the arts and literature world, which placed great importance on the imagination and emotions, and of course, the individual. This is when individualism really takes off. Now with individualism, you can aspire to be the greatest you can be, to have what you thought you couldn't have. Romanticism took marriage and infused it with a story of passionate love. Romanticism also proposed the idea that true love would be the end of all loneliness. Practicality when choosing a partner was left out of the equation or given less importance. Feeling and emotion were the primary drives. It should be noted that the impact of the Romantic era didn't happen all at once. Religious norms were still at the front and center of society. As expectations for a happy and fulfilled marriage increased, and divorce was strongly disapproved of, the search for a perfect partner became a high-stakes endeavor. This often involved various challenges, expressed uncertainties, and emotional turmoil as a way to test potential partners. These intentionally crafted situations aim to deepen the emotional connection between the couple and affirm their commitment to one another. Just watch a few episodes of Bridgerton and you'll know exactly what I mean. But disregarding all the confusion, this attitude was actually a net positive at the time. Before this, the Western world was largely ruled by strict tradition and religious customs. This is the time when people were really starting to break free from these constraints and actually start to express themselves. And this is where we are now. We've been in a pretty long romantic era as far as love and dating goes. Gone are the days of marriage predominantly based on practicality and economic reasons. First, it is a feeling. Then it is a commitment, possibly. But that's not all. To add another ingredient to the list, the sexual revolution makes its play. In the 1960s and 70s, this movement really challenged the traditions around sexuality and relationships. This is when the normalization of all forms of sexual activity become more common, and that includes hookups. To take a closer look at the issues of modern love, this is where it all really starts to crumble. But the last nail in the coffin, the little cherry on top, came to fruition in 2012.
We gathered the friends today to assist our dear Lauren in finding a date that she and we will actually like for a change. Send in the next suitor.
How many streaming services do you have?
Just the ones from my parents. And my ex's parents.
Next.
Tinder. There's been some buzz on the internet lately about the effects of dating apps on relationships and the dating world in general. Many people have started to vent their frustrations about how it's all changed. Tinder really started to pave a way for the new era of dating. Now with dating apps, there are a plethora of options. And these options mainly come down to a few pictures and a biography. What we see now is a paradox of choice. What happens when we encounter the paradox of choice?
So when more and more options are piled onto a decision, like flavors of ice cream or thousands of television programs, your brain isn't just trying to figure out what you want. It's also trying to escape the feeling that you're missing out on something better.
The psychologist Barry Schwartz popularized this term in his book, The Paradox of Choice: Why More is Less. In it, Schwartz explains that reducing the number of options available to consumers can significantly reduce shoppers' anxieties. Schwartz argues that the overwhelming increase in choices, ranging from everyday decisions to the complexities of balancing work, family, and personal needs, has paradoxically turned into a problem rather than a solution, leading to an obsession with choice that often creates greater dissatisfaction. This is what we're seeing now in the world of dating. Anyone can swipe for hours without really making any sort of connection. Love has become transactional. Dating apps may be the number one way couples meet, but that doesn't mean its success rate is all that high. Only roughly 12% of couples who meet through a dating app end up in a committed relationship. In that same vein, we should also evaluate the monolith that is the dating app corp. Think about it this way. Every time Tinder or Hinge or Bumble or whatever app facilitates a successful match, they just lost 2 customers. They want people to keep coming back. Truly, as far as their real intentions, they don't want people to find love. They want them to find flings, hookups, or quickly dissolved relationships. Sure, Hinge's slogan might be designed to be deleted, which has widely been known to be the better of the dating apps, but they still can't really seem to find that success.
I saw a video of a girl talking about how she had to delete Hinge, the dating app, because it was affecting her confidence. I second that.
Let's talk about how Hinge is literally the worst dating app on the market right now. Like, it just feels like we're never getting any really attractive matches, which is weird because when you go on Bumble or Tinder, you're getting matches. They're all there. You can see them.
Yes, they may be on the app, but they're probably behind
a paywall. I've heard some people expressing that Hinge really changed after the original creators were bought out by a larger dating company. By the first quarter of 2019, the Match Group owned 100% of Hinge. Under Match Group's management, revenue rose from $8 million to $284 million in 2022. And people say the timeline of when the app changed very much correlates.
If there are countless options with swiping involved, this makes it much more difficult. It's similar to how people find themselves swiping through TikTok. It's designed to keep them engaged. That's their ultimate goal, to keep your attention for as long as they can keep it. But that's not all. Dating apps really made things confusing for a lot of people, but with a plethora of options comes much more pickiness. Pickiness is good. No one should compromise on their core values and what they really want in terms of love. But because we have so many options now, and love has turned into a profit-seeking machine, this pickiness gets ramped up. Someone could be missing out on the person for them based on a trivial quality that could have been easily overlooked had they met in person first. In terms of dating and love, we still are very much in the romantic era. Romantic love has been propped up as the most important achievement of all. And this pedestal we put on romantic prospects has led to far greater dissatisfaction. So how can this be remedied without going back to the ignorance of love for practicality? Psychotherapist Esther Perel says, today we have super high expectations.
I think we expect today from love and work many things that we expected before from religion and from community. We want our relationships to be transformative, transcendent, meaningful, spiritual, sexual, purposeful, erotic, passionate, and we want it at home and we want it at work. And I'm wondering, that maybe we are so unhappy because we want so many other things that are maybe not part of marriage.
We have such high expectations.
We have super high expectations. We want everything. We want a partner to be an entire community. My best friend, my trusted confidant, my passionate lover, my intellectual equal, my co-parent. And on top of it, I want with you to deal with all the vicissitudes of the everyday life and all of what we need to get to, all of that. And then we should also be passionate, great lovers, fantastic travelers. Exactly.
Romanticism expanded the idea that romantic love would be the answer to life's boring, lonely, or otherwise stressful circumstances. The issue with this is that it completely ignores every other part of a person's life, and serves to isolate us far more into the cocoon of the family unit. If you rely on just your family unit to bring you ultimate happiness, you also could be ignoring all the joy that comes from community involvement. Esther Perel continues,
so when you're looking for the right person, it's not just what attracts you. It's who can you build a life with. That if you do the things that you enjoy, that's really nice, that's comfortable, that's cozy, that solidifies the friendship. But if you want to create intensity, it demands risk-taking, doing new things outside of your comfort zone, a little bit more on the edge.
You see, it's taking both ideas of practicality prior to the romantic era and infusing it with the ideas we still hold from the romantic era. As Alain de Botton puts it in his Time article, How Romantic Ideas Destroy Your Chance at Love, it's realizing that we are rather flawed, and our partner is too, is of huge benefit to a couple in increasing the amount of tolerance and generosity in circulation. And that we will never find everything in another person, nor they in us, not because of some unique flaw, but because of the way human nature works. Yet he goes on to also say, spending 2 hours discussing whether bathroom towels should be hung up or can be left on the floor is neither trivial nor unserious. This is a matter of practicality. We can still aspire to create the love of romanticism, yet still infused with the functionality of everyday living. And who knows, by the end of it, these small spats might serve to bring the couple closer and more understanding of each other's ways of communicating. With women becoming far more independent than ever before, there may be a slight shift in dating culture. There seems to be a shift specifically with women now more than ever to stay single. Why is this?
She talks here about how we need to stop this stigma of single women, because single women actually are single by choice, and they're single because they've done the requisite work to realize what they're worthy of, and they have now replaced that with the need to be chosen.
Sociologist Kathleen Gerson has been tracking marriage and family trends for 3 decades. Gerson also says the study reflects a growing independence among women. Since 1995, as more are choosing to remain single, average earnings have also increased from $24,500 to nearly $30,000.
Marriage has become more of a luxury and an option rather than a requirement. People tend to see marriage as the reward at the end of the effort to get a good job, to get established.
Taking a look at the subreddit r/AskWomenOver30, this user says, more women are single today because we have the ability to be single. In the past, we were almost forced into marriage, and into a very terrible version of marriage with almost no rights. No-fault divorce alone has vastly improved the lives of women. There was a huge rush to get out of bad marriages after that became a thing in lots of places. We are now allowed to have credit, bank accounts, theoretically any job we want to strive for. We can choose whether or not to have children. We can choose whether or not to marry. We have options. This is a very, 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 very good thing. As for men, it's harder than ever to find love either through the apps. For men on Tinder, the average match rate stands on the lower end at 0.6%, averaging out to 1 match for every 140 swipes. Women, however, show a much higher match rate at 10%, with 1 in 10 right swipes leading to a match. In the dating app world, women hold far more power. So it seems dating apps aren't really going anywhere, but perhaps they can be used in a way to protect the user. Treating it like any other social media may be helpful. Use it only when you want to productively find what you need, and setting ahead of time those desires might prove to be effective. Setting dates right away rather than talking for days or weeks might also help with this. It's moving away from the validation aspect to a more productive end goal that could minimize some of the downsides of dating apps. Or even another option would be to delete it altogether. Joining classes or taking up new hobbies that bring you out of the house may lead to finding someone with much more in common, and you'll be saving your mental health. Altogether, the concept of love has evolved in ways we couldn't possibly imagine. From the practicality of arranged marriage to the emotionality of the romantic era. To find meaningful connections, the best mode of action might be to blend emotional depth with practical relationship building. By focusing on genuine interactions and embracing vulnerability, we can redefine love in a way that feels fulfilling and truly authentic.